Hello, everybody. Saturday. We love our Saturdays. It's always on the back of a busy week. So, welcome. I'm Jodie Signorino from JPS Advisors, and we do these weekly lives based on the week that's happened and things that have come up and common questions and a whole range of reasons. So, firstly, I'd like to start with acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I present to you today and you listen from, wherever you are nationwide, this beautiful nation. So thank you very much for joining me today. So today we're talking about the benefits of business. Now, there's probably two main reasons why I chose this topic this week. A couple of things have happened through the week that have really just reinforced my thinking. And, my thinking is that business skills, although we are service providers and educators are providing a service to families, that the business skills that we need to make sure that we're operating a viable business and a viable service and we're meeting all of our customer needs and those sorts of things. So the benefits of business skills. So I'm going to go through the top 6 business skills that you need, and I'm going to unpack it a little bit for each role. So for an educator, for an approved service provider, and also for people that are in applicant stage. So one of the drives of today's session is really around what I've been seeing as far as applicants go, because applicants often come to me when they are rejected, and sometimes I can help and sometimes I can't. So it really does depend on individual circumstances. But as you know, I'm a huge advocate of educators having some business skills, and I say all the time, you don't need an MBA. We're not talking about that level of business, but we need to have the basic principles, the basic knowledge, I suppose, just to make sure that your business is viable. And I say this all the time also, make sure that your business is safe. So the top 6 business skills that's required for any business owner, regardless of the size of your business or whether your business operates from a home, a shop front, whatever that is. So these are just basic business skills that we all need, including me doing what I do. I wouldn't be able to get to where I was without some business knowledge. So the top 6 are your financial planning, your financial management, and what that looks like. So I'll break them down in a second. So financial management, customer service skills, marketing and sales skills, leadership skills, communication and negotiation. Now I'll talk to you a little bit more, particularly educators, around negotiation skills and what the benefits to those are. And project management skills. So they're the 6 skills that you really would be utilizing all of the time and that fit directly into your service, the viability of your service, the management of your service, how you deal with complaints or grievances or issues that should arise, how you drive change. So, we talk about driving change all the time, like you might be implementing Aboriginal pedagogy in your program, you might be implementing a sustainability program in your program. So they're sort of where you use your project management skills, okay? So one of the driving forces behind today was I've met with it, as you know, I met with a number of service providers throughout the week, and I hear all the same things back. There is sometimes a confusion between service provider and educator and what those roles and responsibilities are and who's responsible for what and what is an admin job and what isn't an admin job. So there is still a level of confusion around there. So the business planning would really help with like the service provider's induction, the service provider's rates, all those sorts of things. The other thing that I have seen this week with the rejection letters, when people do come back to me, when it comes to the CCS application, it is absolutely 100% the lack of business planning that really does sit behind those rejections. So remember, if you are applying for CCS, you are asking the federal government to give you access to potentially millions of dollars. So if you don't have sound business planning in place, then you're going to be rejected. It really is that simple. So, I'll probably can't put anything shiny around that. That is what that means. Okay, so from a financial perspective, a financial management perspective, now with educators, you do have an opportunity because you're self-employed to set your rates. And the service provider, and I've said this many times to you before, the service provider would have a schedule of fees that you fit into. You might fit on the lower end if you're just working towards your certificate, or you may hold a bachelor, so therefore you would sit to that higher end. So when you're working out your business and how much you need to earn, how many children you can provide care for the money that you want to bring in, and setting your rate so that you can negotiate your contract with the service provider. So setting your rates, there really is a cost analysis. And I know a lot of people get scared by terminology, but don't get scared by terminology. A cost analysis is simply making sure you've thought through everything and each aspect of where you spend money. So if we look at, you need your hourly rate, whatever that is for you as far as a wage goes. What are the other costs involved? So you've got your insurances, you've got, if you transport children, then you've got those costs around running your car or public transport fees even, or so what are the costs involved in that? And last week, if you had listened to or last week or the week before, when we talked about Father's Day as a project and what the benefits and the impacts and that can be, and the costings around your celebrations. So do you know, how many celebrations do you do a year? Does that increase on your art and craft activity? Does that increase on your time? If you are putting in a sustainability program, what does that look like? What is the costs involved in that? So if you do a proper cost analysis across your service over a 12-month period, you really will be able to identify where those ebbs and flows are, where your money goes. We often hear about educators at the end of the month or the end of the year, and they're like, "Oh my Lord, I thought I would have much more finances than I actually do." So part of that, and I always advise to everybody when I hear that, is you probably haven't done an effective cost analysis then in that case to determine your rates. So there's that. With service providers, often what I see with service providers is they go and do all these home visits to get educators recruited and those sorts of things, and they will go out often with 2 people. So if we look at that from a cost perspective, is that cost effective for the approved provider and the service coordinator to go out to do a home visit, to recruit a brand new educator, although the educator could just send in photos of their home and save that, and that money could be better used in the induction program. So it's not always about saving money either. It's about recognising whether you can spend or allocate money to different aspects or operate slightly different, so that the money that you are spending is more effective and it gets you more longevity. A couple of things like that. With applications, if you are putting in your applications for an approved provider service approval, or particularly your CCS application, then you've really got to work out what fees are you charging, what are families getting for that money, how are you going to pay educators, what is your fee schedule, what if an educator does come to you with a certificate 3 and 1 year experience, and what if an educator comes to you with a kindergarten bachelor qualification and 5 years experience. So what's that scale of fees that you're going to or the rates you'll be paying those educators, and how does that transfer over to the fees that you'll be charging your families? So the financial management is probably the most important, in the sense that if you don't run a viable business financially, then there really is no point. And that's with all of us. I have to make sure my business is viable. I have to make sure that my time is covered. I have to make sure that I can pay my internet bill to get to you guys. So you've got to really know your costs and manage those costs out. Okay. Marketing. Now, marketing and sales, it's a really big deal for you guys, and I know that there's many educators that talk a lot about marketing and getting their own families enrolled and those sorts of things. So how do you manage your marketing? Do you know how to set your, what we call an avatar? Do you know how to set that so that you are speaking to the right audience? So many of you may recognize that I speak, like today I'm speaking to everybody, but normally I would speak just to educators in this forum. And then in the other forums, I may speak just to approved providers. And in some forums, I may speak to people applying to become an approved provider. So what is your audience? What are you looking for? And I also hear things from educators like, we can't get the right families. What they don't meet with our philosophy. They don't meet our times. So where is your marketing being delivered? Where are you advertising? I spoke with an educator yesterday who was advertising on Facebook Marketplace. I haven't done the research, so I don't know whether families will find you on Marketplace. However, I would advise that you do a little bit of your own research around marketing and where your client is, and often with family daycare educators, you may find clients because you are working in a region or an area. You may find families or clients at the library a little bit easier than you may on Facebook Marketplace. But again, I don't know that, so you would need to do a little bit of research behind that. And so that's your marketing and sales. And then if you do get families attracted to your program, then how are you going to sell them on that? What are the benefits to them? So they're your customer service skills. We always hear that it's been around forever, what's in it for me kind of thing. So it's about using your sales ability to make sure that not only do you use your marketing to attract your families, that you can get them over the line and secure an enrollment. So they're your customer service skills. For providers, your customer service skills, you've got to attract families, and your catchment is obviously much bigger. So again, where are you advertising? Are you advertising only on the government websites? Are you advertising on your own Facebook page? Do you have a website? Do you run ads to get families, or you've got to register educators also? So you've got two different audiences that you're speaking with. So how do you write up those ads? Where do you place those ads? How often do you need to place those ads? And again, when you're gaining attraction from educators that either are starting out and want to come to you or are moving from another service, how do you sell them your service that it's more beneficial for them to come over to your service? So there's your marketing and sales. With applicants, your business plan really should tell the federal government, how are you managing this? And again, how are you going to recruit families? How are you going to market your business? Because it's your marketing that will make you viable. And if you are just starting out, you've got to attract from 0 to most likely 15 educators. So you've got to attract them in a spaced out, well thought out time. So what does that marketing and sales plan look like for you? And if you are an applicant starting out, you may not have a leadership team yet. So you've got to manage all of that all by yourself initially, sometimes when you're starting out. So that's your marketing and sales. And then your customer service relationships, that's about making sure that your client, your customers, whether you're an educator, a provider, or an applicant, it's all in your planning. How are you going to make sure that families who are paying whatever per day, that they are getting what you've told them they would be getting? So what are those customer service? How do the families know who to contact when? What if something goes wrong? How is that managed? So they're all your customer service strategies that you would have in place, and that's part of your business planning, how you unpack those. Then we talk about communication and leadership, and when it comes to communication, and we all have different audiences, but as an educator, you're speaking to families all of the time. So how do you communicate with your families to make sure that you're getting the right messages out to families? And one of the things I often say here, part of my induction when I was a manager, part of my enrolment and orientation with families, I would always make sure that families were aware that we most likely will have biting at some point. Children will fall over. Children will get messy, and then ongoing, I would reiterate some of those messages so that if there was an incident with a child being bitten or a child going home that had a fall or something along those lines, the family was aware that based on the program that this is likely to happen, and these are the kinds of falls that we can expect, these are the kinds of behaviours that we expect. So that communication strategy really did support the family to not just one day, come and collect their child and their child's got a bite and go, oh my God, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Were you not monitoring the children? Because we do know that that's very predictable behaviour, particularly in under threes. So we can prepare parents. So that's part of our communication strategy. Also, your communication strategy can link directly back to your marketing. So you can have that, and educators are really well positioned to do this, to promote themselves through their families, because families like to go to work and say, oh, my educator does, my educator does. So the more that we can inform families in our communication strategy, the better that is for you from a business perspective, from a viability perspective, and from a long-term perspective. So you might find that people will come to you and say, oh, do you remember a family was with you, and they've given me your name and number and I'm looking for somebody. So it's that word of mouth that we're trying to build for your business. For service providers, that really is around making sure that you've got open lines of communications with your family, so that if families do need to ask any questions or change anything or raise anything, they know who to go to. They know what your responsibility is. They know your obligations. They know how you're going to manage things. So your communication strategy is really important. Ongoing, you could have a communication strategy that goes for 1 month on a particular topic, and then you could have an ongoing one that goes for, ongoing 12 months or more, those sorts of things. Now, negotiation. Service providers and educators, and particularly educators, by going through this process of business management, it actually puts you in a position where you really do realise your own strengths and you really do realise what you have to offer. So a business plan for an educator really does reinforce what you're doing. And we've just come off the back of Educator Day, and we know you guys do a remarkable job working directly with children and families. So the business planning process will help you articulate that. And once you articulate that from a business perspective and what value you're going to bring to a service provider, if you want to change over, or if you're new into running your own family daycare program, then that gives you the ability to negotiate. So if the provider does have a pay scale or a rate scale, then you're able to negotiate maybe a higher rate as you go, because you can articulate, well, these are all the costs that I have. This is what I need to make. This is what I do provide. And the bottom line budget, when you do your bottom line budget, you'll be able to really determine what rates it is that you want, that you need, that you deserve, those sorts of things. And then again, you've got to sell that. So that's all around your negotiation skills and building those skills for each of you. Okay. Then we've got the leadership skills. Now, leadership, and all of you educators, sometimes you have to take control, and that could be something from, I don't know, maybe like an emergency management, where you've got to take control and direct families in particular ways, or you've got to report something back to the approved provider. So you've got to have those leadership skills. And I know many of you work with educator assistants, and how do you bring those educator assistants along with you? So sometimes it is around making decisions, being a leader, sometimes, and it is all underpinned by understanding your own obligations. And then it's about that engagement of everybody, engagement of families, engagement of your educator assistant, engagement of the residents in your home even, so that you're all moving to the same place and that you can take control sometimes and make sure that situations are handled appropriately, they're followed up accordingly. So they're your leadership skills. And if you do have, as an educator, you do have aspirations of going into like a management role or a leadership role, then they're really good skills to hone in on. So if you go into a coordinator's position and you are supporting you're supporting family daycare educators, then what does that look like for you? How are you going to do that? What is the strategy that you're going to put in place to bring others along on your journey with you? And then we've got project management. Now, project management, again, when I talk about hidden costs and I talk about cost analysis, I often will use the example of like Father's Day, Mother's Day, those kind of celebrations. You may have a range of celebrations in your program that you do with children, and as a service provider, you may have a range of things that you have going in your service that everybody has to participate in, or you encourage them to participate in. So then you've got to think out what are the project management skills to make sure that people are engaged, how all your stakeholders are joining you on that project? What is the cost of that project? What are the outcomes of that project? What's the time frame? So you might decide that you're going to build a sustainability project in your program, and over the next 3 months you want every educator to have certain practices in place, which could be, I don't know, 3 different coloured bins or whatever that outcome looks for you. So by setting your time frames, by setting your costings, by setting your project leader, by doing your engagement with all of your stakeholders, then those skills are invaluable for driving change and driving improvement and building engagement. And of course, with all of this, you are going to meet the national standards, because this works on sound business skills, work on your recruitment, sound business skills, work on your financial management, sound business skills will help everybody in your service have a really good understanding and application of the National Quality Framework. It will meet your Quality Area 7, governance and leadership. So business skills really do relate to everything that you guys do, no doubt about it. Okay, so that's pretty much, they're the top 6. Now, one of the things that I also say to people all the time is, and I said it earlier, you don't need an MBA. None of you really need an MBA, although as a service provider, an MBA would not go to waste. There's no doubt about that, but I'm not advocating for it. I started my MBA and I haven't quite finished mine yet. There is probably no need there. We do live in a time where information is accessible to us and we can access anything we want. So you also will hear me talk about self-directed learning. So once you go through and do your own business plan, you'll recognize in yourself as you go through a business plan of the skills and the strengths that you have and where your opportunities to improve may be. So that's the other idea behind business planning. Now, just a couple of words of warning before I do run away today is, educators, you don't have to have a business plan. There is nothing stating that a family daycare educator has to have a business plan. However, I believe, and you would probably be really hard pushed to convince me otherwise, it does give you an edge because you are often working in a business market that your competitors may be invisible. You don't know how many other educators are around in your area potentially. So by undertaking some business planning, you'll be able to figure out what that looks like for you, where your competitors lie, how do you find your competitors, those sorts of things. But more importantly, I see educators all the time that, families have just left the service and they're left without their pay for the last 2 weeks. And that is really, that's not acceptable for you guys to be left without money. And there is always a loss in business, and we know that. Having sound business practices, though, we minimize those losses. And you've got to figure out with your business planning and your rates and your hidden costs and all those sorts of things where that risk potentially lies and what strategies you can put in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, we know that service providers do have a business plan. So it's about, for service providers, it's about reflecting on their business plan. And particularly in times of growth or improvement, it's really good to reflect back over what your business plan told you and where your business plan is taking you. And that will also help inform your quality improvement plan. For applicants, I've got no other way to say this than straight out. And that is, if you don't have a business plan for your CCS, and you can't prove your operations because you've got to demonstrate those to the federal government, you've really got to have those business skills in order to be approved to administer the childcare subsidy, which, as I said earlier, is potentially millions of dollars. So you want those sound business skills in order for the federal government to say, yep, this person knows what they're doing, this person will protect taxpayers' money, and this person is the right person to be approved. So I'm going to pop the different links in here. Now, educators, because I want you to have certain things, and I do this channel predominantly for you guys so that you can access self-directed free resources. So the business plan I give to educators free, the one for family daycare educators, and I'm also going to pop in the strategic business plan, which is for service providers if they don't have one, which I strongly doubt, but for applicants going for their CCS. So business skills are vital to your success, regardless of where you are at this point and moving forward. Now, coordinators, I probably haven't spoken to you in this yet, but maybe I did reflect a little bit, but business skills are vital to leading people, monitoring people, reporting back to. So if you've got a report from what you've seen at the educator's home over to the person in charge or the nominated supervisor or approved provider, however your services governance structure is. So the business skills are really good, particularly also around recruitment and induction. They are really strong skills that you can transfer over if you can advance your career with those skills. It really is that simple. So business plans, the benefits of business skills benefit all of you, no matter what role you're in. So make sure you take advantage, educators, of the free business plan. I'm going to pop that here for you now, and I'm also going to pop the CCS one. Now, the CCS one, unless you're planning on becoming an approved provider, then that's not for you. That's for people that are applying to become an approved provider. So I've popped those two different links there. I'll jump back in and make sure that that's really clear. And I will talk to you next Saturday. So enjoy your weekend. Have a great weekend. It's a little bit overcast and cold here in Victoria today, so hopefully you've got nicer weather than I do. Don't forget, any questions, you can jump in. I will pop some links in here I'll pop some links in here if you do need to get in touch or if you need to find out anything more. And happy planning, everybody. You'll find that it's invigorating. You'll find that it gives you clarity. You'll find that it gives you direction. And you'll find if you do have a business plan and you are reflecting on it, that it actually gives you your growth strategy. So I can't tell you enough the benefits that you'll all gain from business skills and conducting your own business plan. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Enjoy. See ya.